King Gizzard fans are quite spoiled. Since 2012, the band has released 25 studio albums, 21 bootlegger albums comprising of demos and live performances, and lots of vinyl. At times it seems you can't go more than a week without King Gizzard announcing something. I mean, I'm not complaining because each time they announce something new, it feels like I'm a kid on Christmas morning. It's always so great. However, due to the sheer quantity of albums, it sometimes feels like some albums don't get the attention that they deserve. So with that, I've decided I'm starting a brand new series where I'm going through each album by King Gizzard one by one and giving it its own, dedicated video. I'll go over the album's history, I'll conduct a track-by-track analysis, and overall just give you my thoughts on the album. And just for fun as we go, I'll be ranking the albums one by one, and we can kind of see which one is truly my favorite. It's going to be quite the marathon, so let's get things started with King Gizzard's debut studio album, 12 Bar Bruise. Growing up in Melbourne, Australia in the late 2000s, the members of King Gizzard were constantly around music. Stu McKenzie was in a few bands pre-Giz, some of which also featured future King Gizzard members, such as Revolver Sun, a group Stu was in alongside Cook Craig. The band as we know it began as just a group of friends looking to jam for fun, before eventually being asked by a friend to perform a show. They came up with the name King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard on a whim, and would eventually drop 2 EPs in 2011, those being Angel Sea and Willoughby's Beach. With these not being actual albums, they won't get their own standalone video, but I do plan on making a video at some point covering them, along with stuff like Chunky Shrapnel and Butterfly 3001. Albums that aren't technically in the King Gizzard discography, but I will say most of us King Gizzard fans, we kind of view them as Giz albums, so they'll get their time later on. Anyways, these 2 EPs are really fun listens. Early Giz consists mostly of garage and surf rock, and Willoughby's Beach in particular is a fantastic collection of 9 songs. The lyrics throughout are really simple, with each song usually just repeating 2 to 3 lines over some super catchy riffs. In April 2012, Giz would release the single Bloody Ripper, along with the announcement of their debut album, 12 Bar Bruise. 12 Bar Bruise is definitely a successor to Willoughby's Beach, but it does feature a few differences. First off, I think 12 Bar Bruise sounds even more lo-fi and raw, which could be attributed to the fact the band recorded the songs themselves in some pretty crazy ways. For example, the title track was recorded with 4 iPhones. Another difference from Willoughby's Beach would be the lyrics. While the lyrics in 12 Bar Bruise aren't Shakespeare by any means, there's a lot more to them than its predecessor. 12 Bar Bruise was not only Giz's first album, but it also featured their first time working with Jason Galea. Giz was impressed with a drawing Jason had done of a royal-looking lizard stabbing a monster that resembled a teddy bear. From that point forward, he's done the album art for every single Giz release, alongside also designing posters, t-shirts, and has even done a lot of their music videos. This album also featured their first collaboration via the song Sam Cherry's Last Shot. I'll delve more into that song in a bit, but this song was also their first time working on a song that was more narrative-based, something they've done many times since then. Production-wise, Perth native Paul Maybury recorded and mixed most of the album. 12 Bar Bruise isn't among his credited works on Discogs, so I don't know if he technically produced this album, but he did provide a lot of guidance and equipment for Stu McKenzie. Regarding the production of the album, Stu has said that he kinda just pretended like he knew what he was doing, and he shudders thinking of what this album would have been without Paul's wisdom. Also, the album was mastered by Joseph Cara, a successful mastering engineer who's done work for not just Giz, but Courtney Barnett, Pond, and Babe Rainbow. With all that said, let's go through the album track by track. The second and final single for 12 Bar Bruise ended up being the first song of the album, that being Elbow. Elbow sets the tone of the album perfectly by being explosive and full of energy. The guitar and percussion on this song are super loud, and it's hard to listen to the song and not get hyped. And the final 30 seconds make for a really satisfying end of the song. Muckraker is a bit slower than Elbow and changes up the tempo pretty frequently. This song features a really good chorus and overall just a really solid song. The lyrics in this album in general are hilarious, but with Muckraker featuring the legendary line, "Pissin' shit off porcelain," I just love it so much. Nein is a very relatable song about drinking way too much and regretting it big time. Lines like, "My body is full of poison shit," and Never Again give me war flashbacks to some of my own worst hangovers. The 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 refrain is really fun to sing along to as well, and it makes for a very memorable song. Up next is the title track, and this one is also themed around drinking too much alcohol. The speaker of this song sings about their inability to maintain an erection due to their drunkenness, and also how 12 bar booze is 12 bar bruise. I've seen a good number of people not really like this one, but it's honestly one of the songs from this album that gets in my head the most. I think the main guitar riff on this song is just so great. However, it will always blow my mind that Stu is actually credited for the ones doing the vocals and not Ambrose. Let me know if you think the same, because I just cannot not hear Ambrose in this song. I don't know, just crazy that it's actually Stu. I really love the first 4 songs of 12 Bar Bruise, but unfortunately I don't enjoy the next 3 songs nearly as much. Garage Liddiard is a decent song, but really doesn't stand out too much when compared to the opening 4 tracks. It's just a little forgettable for me personally, but I still like it. Sam Cherry's Last Shot will sound very familiar if you've listened to Eyes Like the Sky. Like that album, this song features narration by the late Broderick Smith. I've talked about Brod Smith previously in my 2022 Eyes Like the Sky retrospective, as well as a dedicated video I've made honoring him after his unfortunate passing in 2023. But if you aren't aware, he is the father of band member Ambrose Kenny Smith. He has a lengthy music and acting background and has worked on a few projects with King Gizzard. I'll go more into his Eyes Like the Sky contributions in my next video, but regarding Sam Cherry's Last Shot, this song actually started as an instrumental. Broderick Smith offered to read a chapter from the 1883 novel 33 Years Among Wild Indians over the song. As a certified Eyes Like the Sky enthusiast, I just don't think Sam Cherry's Last Shot particularly fits here. I think the spoken word narration worked better in the context of that album, and it just feels a little out of place here. The guitar in the background though is really solid and sounds great. High Hopes Low has a unique and cool intro, but aside from that I basically view this song like Garage Liddiard. A good song, don't get me wrong, but it just doesn't really stand out to me like the first 4 songs of the album. However, I will say that things pick up again with the next song, Throat Boogie. This is the first of many boogies that the band would release over the years, and this one does not disappoint. The story of this song is actually insane and is based on a true story. Basically, a 16-year-old Ambrose was attending a party and a friend of his accidentally cut him in the neck with a broken bottle. His doctor said that the cut came just an inch away from his jugular vein. So yeah, the story of the song is pretty crazy, and the song itself is great. It's also the first song in the King Gizzard discography to feature Ambrose on vocals. His other contributions to the album are mostly harmonica, an instrument he's used on numerous Giz albums. Throat Boogie is one of 2 songs from this album to consistently appear in their live rotation, and it was great when I got to hear it live in Columbus and Red Rocks Night 3 in 2022. Moving on to the 9th track of the album, we have Bloody Ripper, which if you remember, this was the lead single for the album. This is just another song I think is good, but not necessarily great. I'd say the song probably has the slowest tempo outside of Sam Cherry's Last Shot, and I do like Stu's vocals going along with the more relaxed guitar riffs. The last 3 songs on the record though end on a high note. Starting with Uh-Oh, I Called Mum. There isn't a ton of information regarding this song, but I always interpreted it as getting uncomfortably high, freaking out, and resorting to calling your mum for help. Apparently the song stems from an experience Lukey had at the 2011 Meredith Music Festival. The second to last song on the album is probably my favorite, that being Sea of Trees. The lyrics on this song are a drastic contrast to the rest of the album and discusses the topic of suicide. More specifically, it references a forest in Japan that unfortunately is notorious for the amount of suicides that have taken place there. Oh yeah, and you probably remember it for that time Logan Paul went there and filmed the dead body like a dumbass. Regarding the song itself, the lyrics and music are fantastic. I love the opening and how soothing it is before eventually picking up and getting really energetic. The song itself has been frequently played at the recent live performances and is usually played for a lot longer than the album version. Fun fact, Sea of Trees was actually the original band name for King Gizzard. I'm not sure why they ended up changing it, but I thought that was kinda cool. The final song on 12 Bar Bruise is Footy Footy, a very solid and enjoyable end to the album. If you're an uncultured American like me, you probably will have no idea what this song is about unless you pull up Genius lyrics. Footy is a term Australians use when referring to football. Not that football. Yeah, there we go. Throughout the song, Joey name drops multiple former Australian football players and teams, back from when the guys were kids and they loved watching football. Funny enough, the song even got included in the soundtrack for AFL Live 2, a 2013 Aussie football game for the PS3 and Xbox 360. Something I just need to see for myself.
Not a pretty drop punt, but it gets away okay. Tap right, done. So yeah, I really enjoyed Footy Footy, but I think Sea of Trees might have been a better album closer.
But considering Footy Footy is more on par with the rest of the album, I guess it's a bit more fitting that they chose this for the closer. And with that, we are done with King Gizzard's first studio album. What a way to begin the series. In 2020, when I originally went through King Gizzard's discography, 12 Bar Bruise was among the last albums that I checked out. And if I'm being honest, my first few listens, I really wasn't that crazy for it. Which is strange because I loved Willoughby's Beach when I first listened to it, but unfortunately that love did not really transition over to 12 Bar Bruise right away. However, I did eventually come around on it, and I'm so happy I did because this album just exudes so much about what I love about King Gizzard. It's just so energetic. I love all the really infectious hooks that they have all throughout the album. I love the first 4 songs in this album. I also really love Throat Boogie, Sea of Trees, and Footy Footy. But I will say the remaining songs I didn't list, they kind of range from just alright to pretty good. At the end of each of these videos, I'm going to be ranking the albums one by one, and because this is the first album that we're looking at, I can't really rank it with anything else, so you'll have to stay tuned for next time when I see how it compares with Eyes Like the Sky. I don't really see a ton of people list this as like their favorite album or anything like that, but I will say the people that do love this album really love this album. Let me know your thoughts regarding 12 Bar Bruise in the comments below, as well as what you think about this series, if you have any suggestions, stuff like that. Next time, we're heading into the desert as I put the spotlight on King Gizzard's second album, Eyes Like the Sky.